Hey, life's tough. We get it. That's why we want to help. So that means over the next hour, this service, we absolutely believe that there's going to be something that you can take away that's going to help you this week. And guess what? It doesn't matter where you are in the faith spectrum. And get this, you don't even have to be a Christian to be able to get something out of this, because we believe that Jesus can help you make life better. More importantly, he can make you better at life. And Jesus is the sort of guy that doesn't need you to have a whole heap of faith. He just says, follow him anyway. And guess what? This stuff's for free. Stick with us. The service is about to start. Most of all, we're praying you're going to get something out of this morning.
Well, hello and welcome to Northside. My name is Jordan and I'm part of the team here. And if you're new, if you're visiting, if you've just been around a couple of times, we're glad you're here. We're glad you decided to come along to this with this crazy bunch of people called church. And so we're so glad that you're here this morning. And isn't it amazing how all of this happens, right? Isn't it amazing that we can actually be in a space like this where there can be, up to a couple of hundred of us gathered in this space to do life together, to be able to hear incredible music and worship, to be able to have all of it supported by incredible tech team that are sat at the back over here, incredible lights. It's very unique, isn't it? It's a very unique environment to be in. You can go to a concert and there are probably, 50, 100 paid staff members who pull off a concert. Even concerts of similar to this size, you probably need like 10, 15, 20 staff members. But the incredible thing about church is that this all happens because of the sacrifices and the service of you guys, of people who are on this very stage here, the people who are running the tech at the very back there. And I just find that's very unique. And so why don't we just give it up for all our volunteers that we have in church as well this morning. It's a very unique environment to be in. And the reason we mention that, you may have noticed as you walk through the door, we've got lots of balloons, we've got lots of fun, vibrant colors up the back of church. That's because after the service today, we have this incredible thing called Team Fest happening. And Team Fest is an opportunity if you have maybe never served or never volunteered in a church team. It's your opportunity to find out what we have on offer, because you maybe just assume it's just this. You maybe just assume that, it's either I do this or I take over Sam's job and start preaching. But there's many different ways that you can serve in the life of church and you can get involved. And we'd love to share more about what that looks like with you after the service. But before we get there, and for right now, it's everyone's favorite time of the service. One for the kids, because it's the time for kids' church to start. So if you want to head out, Charisse is doing a little bop up the back over there. You've got Charisse and Cam up the back. So if you're up to the ages of grade 6, maybe to grade 8, you can head up the back with Charisse over there, and you're going to head down for an awesome kids' church. And for the rest of us, why don't you turn to your neighbor, turn behind you, turn around you, head across the room if you need to, say hi to someone, see how they're doing, see what's going on. Well, hello online. Hello online. It's great to see you this morning. As I said before, my name's Jordan. I'm part of the team here at Northside, and we're so glad you're here as well. If you're just tuning in for the first time into our online church, maybe you're on the YouTube, maybe you're on our online website, but we're so great to have you here. So why don't you put some messages in the chat as well, maybe have a chat with each other. How's your guys' week been? What have you been up to? How's work been? It's going well, not going so well? What have you got planned for the rest of your Sundays? Well, I hope you have got a tea or a coffee in your hands wherever you sat, and that you enjoy the rest of the service with us. We have Louise and Gabe in the chat at the moment. They're going to say hi right now, and they're our online moderators, online hosts this morning. So if you have any questions about today's service, feel free to ask them. They'll be happy to answer questions for you, help point you in the right direction. But so glad you're here. We're going to have about another 45 minutes to this service. Later on, we're going to be hearing from Sam, who's going to be bringing the final message in our series on Make Room. It's been a really challenging message and a challenging series for us all, and I hope you feel challenged by it this morning. Up next, we're actually going to hear a Northside story, which is a chance for us to interview one of our Northsiders and ask them about what's going on in their life. So why don't you stick around with us? Grab a cup of tea, grab a coffee in the meantime. As if you've been here the past few weeks, we've actually been hearing from some of our incredible volunteers in the life of church. And we're going to hear from a couple more right now this morning. It's the very last people you would have seen on the screen right there. And so you've probably seen them welcome you at the doors. Maybe you're part of their community group. But why don't we welcome Sing and Dillis to the stage right now. Let's give them a round of applause. Grab a seat wherever you want. Hi, guys. How are you? Dillis is avoiding the microphone, clearly. She clearly does not want to be on the microphone there. How are you guys? You doing well? Doing well? I think it's on. Are we on? Are we on? We're
Yeah?
good. We're on.
Okay.
Doing well? Doing good?
Doing good.
Doing
yeah.
good. And so, for both of you guys, for those of you who've those of us who've seen you, you're kind of a bit everywhere, right? You're kind of involved in lots of different things and lots of different areas of church life. And would you mind just sharing with us just where you serve and where you get involved in the life of church at the moment?
Okay, so when we joined, we want to get involved right away. So I think Sunday is great. And we joined the welcoming team. And it's great because I can introduce myself to the people as well. so how are the people coming in will be here for a long time. So I can introduce myself to them, welcome them back to church, and make the new people feel welcome, because it's so important to have somebody who new feel welcomed. I think that's very important, and be safe and ask questions. I want that to be, that's why we're there, because we can help other people to feel, happy and not lost and know where everything is. So
That's great. Really incredible. What about you, Sing?
The question is, what do I do?
What do you do? I mean, you're probably the same
Yeah,
as Dillis.
I
That makes
do
sense,
also together with Dillis on, is it on? Yeah, on the welcoming, and it's great to meet people. And I also facilitate a small, Monday night fellowship group. I mean, community group, whatever you call it. We have a very small group, but we got great chance to able to share, and because of our size, and yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Really, really great. And so, just to pick up on what you mentioned, Dillis, you mentioned when you first came here, you wanted to serve right away. You were like, let's jump right into it. Let's get stuck in. What was it that made you want to just get into a new church? I mean, for many of us, understandably, you want to feel it out a little bit and get used to things, but you guys were just ready to jump straight in. What was it that made you want to serve straight away?
because I was so welcomed here, everybody's so, so friendly, and I want to just give back. Yeah. I think this is a very special place, and we can bless more people. Yeah.
That's great. It's really, really great. And either within Welcoming or within your community group, Sing, do you have like a favorite memory so far, or just a story or a favorite story that you've had while serving in either of those areas?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think, let's talk about a little bit about the Monday night, community group. And we have a very small group, so we're able to know each other deeper. And, this is great, meeting on Sunday, receiving the teaching and everything, and meeting everybody in the church and worshiping corporately. But then, the small group, this is a bit of like a one way. You receive, you sit there and receive. But community group, you actually is two way. Yeah. So you're able to contribute. You share your experience. We have members who are from different walks of their stages of walking with the Lord. So my role is just facilitating that people can share their experience. The more experienced one can share with their experience with the younger one. And yeah, it's great. We have great fellowship. The word fellowship is like fellow in the ship. So you can't have one fellow, you fellow with yours, fellowship with yourself, We can fellowship with God, alone. But then when you want to have, but God wants us to have fellowship together. So you need at least two people in a ship to fellowship. But the most important thing is joining a community group is great because God loves to have fellowship. And He always there when you have two people. Yeah, I mean, He is inside us, But then when you have two people, He say, two or three of us gather in His name, He'll be in the midst of us. So He's always there. So the great thing about community groups are you can see God working in the group. So that's the best experience I have.
So good. You can tell your passion for it there, Sing, as well. And if there was ever a great plug for community groups, I think we just got it right there, didn't we? And it's incredible to see you guys, and the way you've just come and you've got stuck in, and you're just, part of the furniture here at Northside. And so the way, like you said, that you welcome others as you were welcomed yourself, and you help bring that community for others as you feel the sense of community here as well. And so as we have just mentioned, as we're heading into Team Fest after the service this morning, and maybe there's people in here who haven't served before, or maybe exploring where they could get involved in the life of church, what would be your advice to someone who's maybe kind of considering where they could get involved into church life, considering if that's the option for them? What would be your advice to someone who is maybe deciding whether they want to serve into church?
I think you just jump in and try it. You can always try one thing, and if it doesn't suit you or the time is not right, you can always go to another thing. But you really make friends when you serve, and it's great together, serving together. It's just something very special, I think. Yeah,
totally agree. It's pretty much my entire bridal party for my wedding were people I did team with. I served on team with in church, and I think it's such a key one is the friendships that you can form with the people that you do it alongside. Did you have something you wanted to share too, Sing?
Yeah, just one last thing is, as Christian, God asks us to, my passion is to tell people that Jesus loved us, and He wants us also to love others. So the word, is like, if I remember it right, it's like love one another. By these, people will know that you are my disciples. So I think everybody here, if you have a relationship with God, that's what you like to do, to tell people that God loves us and we love you. So I think that's the main message, the main fuel that drives us to do whatever area. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are the same.
Well, so good. Why don't we give it up for Sing and Dillis, everyone? Thank you for joining us. We can see just how passionate people you are about church. And so you feel free to grab your seats. And why don't we give it one more time again for Sing and Dillis, everyone?
Hey, it's great to have you here with us this morning. And if we haven't met, I'm Sam. I'm the lead pastor here at Northside, and hope we get a chance to chat after the service. And let me say, as your pastor too, just a huge thank you on this Team Fest Day for the incredible role that so many of you play. You are your church, and it's just amazing that this thing operates. It's never lost on me as I'm prepping notes for this moment of all the things that have to happen and all the parts that we play in any given week for Northside to be Northside. So thank you for all that you do, so I don't miss the opportunity to reflect that this morning. Hey, got a question for you. If you had just one extra hour this week, if you were given one extra hour this week, who would you give it to? I mean, would you give it to a partner or a friend or a child? Or would it be lost in death scrolling and distractions? Interesting thought. We don't mean to lose relationships. It just happens. Life is busy. Schedules are tight. And as a result, we know it, you and I know it, we miss the opportunities that matter most. And I think part of the reason why is that in an effort to cram more into life, we squeeze out the stuff that actually matters the most. And I know that for some of you, this has already happened. You squeezed in one more thing, and then something cracked or something snapped, and there was a breakdown or there was a meltdown. For some of you, you're on the verge of this happening, where at risk is a relationship, a marriage, a friendship, time with your kids. Maybe there's a past relationship like this, and you swore you would never do it again, but here you are. And look, if there is no room in relationships, you can lose a marriage, you can lose a friendship, you can lose a child. The stakes are high. And so what I want to talk about this morning is make room for relationships. Because here's the thing, you can't be efficient at a relationship. Have you noticed this? I wish it were the case. It's not like Zach comes into me and says, Dad, PlayStation 5, got a great idea. Hey, look, if you get me this bad boy, I've just been thinking I can set it up in the TV room. You can then be in your study. You can prep all of your work. You can just glance out sideways. I will be there. Boom, quality time. I've been thinking about if you buy a PlayStation, I've worked it out, you can cut down the amount of time you spend with me by about 30 to 35% per week and get even better, Dad. You get to spend even more time in the Word. So here they are, option 1, option 2, option 3. I think the third option, PlayStation Pro, is the best. What do you reckon? Right. You can't be efficient at a relationship. Relationships take time. Relationships take room. And so one of the things that we need to learn, particularly in our culture, the lower North Shore of Sydney, just Sydney itself, one of the things that we need to learn and we need to get in our heads, or maybe I'm just preaching to myself this morning, so I'll say it. But one of the things that we need to learn is that there will never, ever be enough time for you to do the things that you are convinced you need to do or that other people are convinced you need to do. Amen? There's just not time. And so what it means is that there's going to be a choice for you. There's going to be a choice every single week, and dare I say every single day, that there's going to be a choice that you're going to have to make. There's going to be a discipline that you're going to have to display. There is a choice that you are going to need to do, because if you don't make this choice, and here's what's terrifying. If you don't make this choice, then it's possible that you are already carrying future regrets that you don't even know you have. And the choice is, am I going to make room for the relationships in my life? Am I going to make room for the things that matter most? Now, if you felt this and you're sitting there realizing, maybe I've traded the important things for the urgent things. Maybe I've traded relationships for emails and schedules. Then you're not alone. And here's the good news. Jesus, the busiest man on earth, and I genuinely mean that. Like, you think about the guy's mission. He's got 3 years. Like, heck of a job description. 3 years to go and find 12 ragtag people and train them in such a way that they would change the course of history. Imagine if that was your job description. Busiest man on earth. Busiest man on earth knew exactly the sort of tension that you and I feel this morning. And not only does he show us, but he teaches us a better way, just as we've been singing this morning. He teaches us a better way, which, funnily enough, I was talking to Kristen's preaching same passage up at Turramurra this morning. That's why she's not here, my wife, Kristen. And we're talking through this message today, and I said, Jesus knows this. And she says, yeah, but did Jesus have 3 children tugging at his robe when he's going around the countryside? Right? It's like, I'd love to see this passage from Jesus if he had 3 kids under 3. But he did know this because of what he modeled, and I want to show you this for Jesus' sake. So I wonder what Kristen's going to say to him when she gets to heaven. Jesus knew exactly what he was talking about. And Jesus made room for relationships. And we see this in Luke chapter 10. Luke records a story. And we have to remember that these are not just made-up books of the Bible. Luke was an eyewitness. Luke was one of Jesus' friends. Luke was one of the 12 that we're going to hear in this passage that was with Jesus. And so this is his travel journal of what he saw Jesus doing when it came to relationships. And it says this in verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Now, when they're on their way, there's a lot of religious language in this, which can make it, you kind of miss the point of all of this. Two things in here. Where a woman named Martha opened a home to him, we think, oh, this is Jewish hospitality. He just knocks on the door and Martha opens it up. No. When you understand the relationships, Jesus knew Martha. Martha was the sister of his best friend Lazarus. And so when they were on their way, they go into a village past his best friend's house. And so really what is happening here, when they're on their way, they're not just walking around. Jesus is working. And so there's a better way to put it. I call it the Sam Amplified version. Thanks, Holly. Looks like this. as Jesus was in the middle of a hectic boardroom meeting with his 12 employees, he stopped off at his best friend's sister's place for a cup of tea. That's how that passage should read. He knew Martha, and so as a result, as Jesus was doing the work that God had given him to do to change the lives of these 12 people to change the world, Jesus walks past through the village and he says, oh, there's my best friend's sister's place. I'm just going to stop in here. Now note what Jesus doesn't do. Here's what Jesus doesn't do. He doesn't walk past there and go, oh, boys, that's my best friend's place there. That's Martha's place there. Look, we're too busy for this. Can you just dictate this? Laz, so great to catch up the other week. Must do brunch again soon. Sisters are looking great. Love to all. Jesus. Right? Now what does he do? He stops. He stops. Busiest man in the world. He stops. And as a result, we get a case study in not just the how, but the principles behind how you make room for relationships. More importantly, what not to do when it comes to relationships. And look at this. It then says in verse 40, he gets into the house and it says, but Martha was distracted by all of the preparations that she had to make. Now, straight up, I want to say, I get Martha. All right, because some of you, I know where you're going. You've been in church before. You know what this passage is. It's the Mary Martha passage, right? There's Martha who's doing all the preparations, and then there's Mary that we'll hear does the right thing according to Jesus. I get Martha. I get work. I get distractions. I get 3 kids around your feet. I get the pressure and the burden of providing. I get having to do what you got to do. I got to say, like up front, I get Martha. I'm with Martha. Who's with Martha? Right? I think Martha gets too much of a bad rap from this passage. I'm a Martha. I'm with, and she's just trying to make sure that everyone's got something to eat. Everyone's been well looked after, that the house is tidy. She's doing what half of the house parents do in any given week. And yet she's the one who gets chastised by Jesus. But Martha's case study shows us why we squeeze out relationships. Not that she did it, but why. And it's startlingly true. Because Jesus then says, but Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And she came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered. I can't imagine the busiest man on earth just is so relaxed. You are worried and upset by many things. Now that word there, worried or anxious, is not the word anxious that you and I would often use. The word anxious in the Greek that Jesus used is meranmao or merimnao. I can't say it with a nice Greek accent. But what it fundamentally means is fragmented. Martha, Martha, you are all in a tears because you are fragmented. You are all over the place. And what he means by that is that, and we do this all the time, don't we? He's saying you're worried because you are giving pieces of yourself to everyone else. You are giving a piece to yourself to every different person in your life. And you see this. I'm sure you would never do this. But that fragmentation and that worry, that meranmao looks, it's the husband or the wife or the mum or the dad that sits down at the dinner table and the meal's being cooked and all the kids are around there and they're eating, and one of the kids is excitingly telling you the story of what they got up to today, and then the spouse elbows them and says, "Are you with us?" And you go, "Huh?" It's the mum in a playground and there's a little kid there and I'm scrambling up the objective that they've been trying to do on the playground. They're so excited and they're screaming, "Mummy, Mummy, look at me." And she's just going, It's meranmao. Fragmented. People are only ever getting pieces of you. You ever felt this tension? Pete Scazzaro says, one of the greatest gifts that you can give a person is your presence. And haven't you ever noticed this? Have you ever noticed that when someone is physically present with you, but they're not mentally present with you? Right? All of the different partners that are in the room are kind of hoping that, my other partner didn't realize that. I know how it works, right? You're kind of trying to fake it until you make it. kind of pretend that you're present. But let me give you a tip if you're that type of person. They know. Your partner knows. Your friend knows. Your kid knows when you are not 100% present, because one of the greatest gifts is to give someone your 100% undivided attention. Dallas Willard says, what gets your attention gets you. And so the heart of all of this is that Jesus was saying to Martha, I'm not chastising you because of your activity. I'm chastising you because of your attention. You are all over the place. And your busyness is not the cause of the fragmentation. Your fragmentation is the cause of the busyness. Hear the difference? And so Jesus says to Martha, 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 you are so fragmented. You're all over the place. We can be all over the place. And the reason is because we haven't made room for the relationships that matter most to us. And so, I guess the question then is, well, what is Jesus saying? That what? Activity bad and slowness good? And you know, I was thinking about it. That's often how a lot of preachers preach this passage, right? Maybe you've heard this passage preached that way. You know, about people, preachers often preach this passage like, you know what you need to do? You need to get rid of your activity and sit at the feet of Jesus. You know, let go of all of your busyness of work and just sit at the feet of Jesus. Which I know how you think. You go, that's fine for you to say, Mr. Pastor, where you're paid to go read the Bible on a rock, right? But you don't have to deal with my boss, and you don't have to deal with my workplace, and you don't have to deal with my life. And look, I get that. I understand that. That's why I'm not preaching it that way, right? I understand that. I understand how that goes. And I think if I preached it that way, we would miss the remarkable and the clinical precision by which Jesus diagnoses the problem for Martha and for us. And it's not that Mary's any necessarily better, but she does do something better, and it's quite profound in the way that Jesus describes what it is that she's done. What does Mary do? Well, in verse 41 of Luke chapter 10, Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one, and Mary has chosen what is better. Now, what is better? The old way that preachers preach this is, the better way is sit at the feet of Jesus. Do away with all your busyness. That's not really in our context. What does Mary do? What does Mary do? Mary chose that which was unique. Mary chose what was unique. Mary chose what was unique to the moment. Mary chose what was unique to her. Mary chose what was unique to Jesus. In other words, Mary would rather miss a meal than miss a moment with Jesus. And that's unique because it's never coming back again. The Lord himself is in my house with me. The dishes can wait. And so I think if we take Mary's principle, there is just one application this morning, which I know for some of you is like great news. It's like 60% off. That's what I say. 60% off today. I do it kind of once a quarter. It's a one-point message this morning, right? Because I want you to get this, and I want you to take it home. I don't want you to know this. I want you to do this. And if Mary chose what is unique, then here's what you and I are to do in that moment. Don't trade what is unique to you for something that someone can or will do. Say it with me. Don't trade what is unique to you for something someone else can do. And I know what that looks like. You know, it's going to be 5:15 p.m. for many of us, and there's going to be a date with one of your friends. It could be a date in a relationship that you're going to. It could be time to go home. And you know how these bosses work. They come in and bang, something comes onto your desk right at the last minute. And you know that tension? Do I do this or do I go? Do I please the boss or do I go and spend time with the family? And that's the choice that I'm talking about. That's the choice that you're going to have on a daily basis. of whether or not, hey, in this moment, am I going to trade what is unique to me, or am I going to, and if so, am I going to trade it for something that someone else can or will do? I hate to break it to you and ask any of the retirees. Thankfully, we're a generationally rich church. Ask any of them over coffee this morning. They will tell you, eventually, someone else will do your job. I know you think you're the only one in the world that can do it at the moment, but I hate to break it to you, someone else can do that. But only one person can be the friend that you are to that friend. Only one person can be the father or the mother that you are to that child. Only one person can be the partner that you are to that partner. And so don't trade what is unique to you. And I've lived this. I've felt this. Years back, I remember it's like 5:30 on a Tuesday. We have elders meetings on Tuesday nights, and it was 5:30, and I was right at that threshold where it's like, as you kind of do at 5:30, elders starts at 6:30 for dinner, and so I thought, well, it's 5:30. By the time I drive home, that's 20, 30 minutes in traffic. That's 6. I'm going to have no more than maybe maximum 10 to 20 minutes with the kids. So, why don't I just sit here and clean up my inbox for half an hour, right? That's a noble thing to do. And it was in that moment, and probably around this sort of stuff that I read before, that I thought, no, hang on, what is the unique thing to do? What's the unique moment? I think back then, Zachy, who's high school this year, Zach was like 4 years of age. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get in the car. I'll take the tunnel. I'll pay the $4 toll. And so I get home, and like I expected. Unfortunately, it wasn't like, Sound of Music, 3 kids lined up waiting for Papa to arrive. No, my house was flipping mayhem. It was crazy. Like, Kristen's handed me a child. We've got like 3 kids under the age of 4. She's handed me a child. She says, it's bath time. You can do that. Great. You're home. You can do it. I think she'd forgotten I'd even had elders on. I went upstairs. We did the bath. It was kind of like the human equivalent of washing a golf ball. It was like this, you towel them off, wipe them off, and all the rest of it. And all the mayhem of all of that, I'm getting down, and I'm like, I'm toweling little Zachy, and I'm getting him all dried up. And right in that moment, he hugs me, and he just whispers in my ear, says, thank you for coming home for me, Daddy. I don't know what we met about that night for elders. And you and I know this, like, you only get 4-year-old hugs once. You're only in your 20s once. You're only in your 30s once. You only get that moment with your grandkids once. Why would you want to trade that? For an email? So don't trade what is unique to you for something that someone else can do. So if you want to know how to grid this and how to work this out for all you practical note takers, you write it down. You just ask yourself in that moment when you feel this tension, and I know that you know this tension, what is unique to me in this moment? And what can I do to shape my life around that? What can I uniquely bring into this context? Because here's the thing, God is going to gift you 1,000,000 moments this week. But only you can choose which ones you're going to seize. Like a computer cache, to use that term for all of you computer geeks like me, right? A cache is just like a swirling of these golden, beautiful moments that are going to be filtering through your life, and you have an opportunity ahead of you to say, I want that one, and I want that one, and I want that one. And we're not going to trade it for emails and busyness, and we're certainly not going to trade it for death scrolling. And so here we are, make room, end of 4 weeks. For 4-week series. Don't trade what is unique to you. 4 weeks. It's been wonderful, hasn't it? To certainly for me to hear the way that many of you have resonated what we have talked through over the last couple of weeks. Like, I've had people from community groups saying, like, can we do 4 more weeks? Yeah, can we do a little bit more? Can we have the studies for this? Can we work? Like, yes, yeah, we could do 8 to 10 weeks in all of this. But that's not the point. The point of this whole process was not to give you more content. I'm always saying it's the doing that makes a difference. And knowing more about making room is not going to grab that precious moment that is awaiting you this week in your life for the people that matter most, right? And so in light of that, let me take you back to the question that I asked to begin with. Well, that's all we need to consider. If you were given just 1 more hour this week, who would you give it to? And you want to know the reality? Is that you've been gifted that miracle in this moment. You got dressed for church. You turned up. Jesus has your attention. That moment is not just happening 3 or 5 days down the track. That moment's happening now. It's now. It's in this moment. It's here. Where other place than right now when Jesus has your attention to do this? And this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about what small intentional step can I take to prioritize the most important relationships in my life. What note do I need to send? What text do I need to send? What coffee do I need to have? What phone call do I need to make? Just one. Because just imagine, if you get this right, you know, someone in your future is going to thank you for this. This moment now that we have together, people are not going to know. People are not going to know your strategy. But they're going to know, like Mary, that you chose better. There are lots of things for you to do this week, says Jesus, but only one thing is needed, and that is to make room for the relationships that matter most to you. You can imagine what your relationships would look like in 2 or 3 months with your friends or your family if you got this right. Can you imagine what your relationships are going to look like in 10 years if you get this right? Someone in your life, even though they've got no idea that you're sitting in a church, whether you're a person of faith or not, you can do this. You don't have to believe in Jesus this morning to do this. It's from him for free. That's awesome. They're going to have no idea why you did this, but they're going to be glad you did. And so, this morning, the relationships that you have in your life, they're not going to wait around forever. And look, if you're anything like me, yeah, I know when I've thought this through, that there are relationships that I wish I'd stewarded better, and there are mates that I wish I'd stayed closer to because I hadn't taken Jesus at his word around this morning, and that hurts. That's difficult to think about. But I think for me, at the end of the day, there's still an opportunity ahead of me now, and there's still an opportunity ahead of you now. So do it now. Don't trade what is unique to you for something that someone else can and will do. Let's pray. Father, I pray that you would heal our hearts with the reality of this moment, that for all of the missed opportunities that we may have had, Father, ahead of us, there's going to be a million more new ones. And so I pray over every person in this place, every person watching online, every person watching this YouTube clip back, that, Lord, you would do something supernatural and miraculous beyond this moment now. That outside the walls of this church, there are friends, and there are sons and daughters, there are parents, there are colleagues who are going to be irrevocably changed because of decisions, courageous decisions that are going to be made in this moment. Father, thank you for the revelation and for your teaching, Jesus. May we take you at your word. Help us with this, I pray, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.